Well, I do want to thank the UNC Study Center for inviting me to participate today. A year ago, I retired from 40 years as a computer science professor. I came down here from George Washington University, where I had been a professor. I'm very envious of all of you who are college students who call yourselves Christians. I misspent my 4 years in college as a professing atheist. And so I'm very envious of when I see these wonderful Christian college students. I didn't become a Christian until I was 30 years old. I credit C.S. Lewis with my head conversion and a praying sister with my heart conversion. So between 1965 and 1985, I changed from somebody who scoffed at the Bible to somebody who smuggled Bibles into Russia. And I actually hadn't planned, I really should, because of the Zach and Henry story, I should really tell you, because it's a James Bond story, but I'm not going to do that because I actually do have things I want to say. So during my years as a Christian professor, I viewed computers, and what I really want to do is give you kind of a framework from a technology perspective of looking at how we can think about work and technology. And so that's where I'm really not going to talk a lot about myself. You can read about my bio, but I want to give you a framework for thinking about technology and work. And so during my years as a computer science professor, I looked at computers more from an anthropological, like a tool perspective, rather than from a technical perspective. I looked at how they impacted society. And so, although I did teach a lot of technical courses, I also taught courses on computers and society and computer ethics, and wrote a lot of articles in the computer ethics field. In fact, I just finished an article, it's going to be coming out in March, on the recent proposal by the European Union to define regulations that will define the personhood of robots. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But let me state unequivocally that I believe that the fundamental concept for understanding personhood is that we humans are imago Dei, that is, made in the image of God. And this is what sets us apart from creation, and this is what gives us dignity. I want to give you an interesting framework that I actually came across 30 years ago about how this holy view of self and personhood has been demeaned literally over the past 5 centuries as we've gone through this whole scientific revolution. Freud was the first one who noted this in 1917 when he enumerated 3 assaults on human pride and what he called discontinuities. The first was the theory put forth by Copernicus in 1543 that the Earth was not the center of the universe, therefore we are not the center of the universe. Second was Charles Darwin's theory, of the theory of evolution, 1871, that there's a blurring of the boundaries between humans and animals. And then, of course, Freud's own exploration of the subconscious, showing that our ego is not in charge. We think we are in charge of ourselves, but actually we're controlled by our subconscious. Taking this one step further, MIT professor Bruce Maslish in 1993 looked at the relationship between humans and machines. And he pondered the implications of we becoming more machine-like with all of our artificial body parts and robots becoming more human-like. And he described this as the 4th assault on human pride. Now, Maslish turned the Freudian metaphor on its head, and what he said was that they weren't discontinuities, they were really continuities that blurred some unique trait that humans had compared to something else. And so his 4th continuity was the abolition of any difference or discontinuity between man and machines. Would the human brain be characterized as a computer made out of meat? And not a very good one. So how does all this connect back to imago Dei and the dignity of work? I think it should be evident that these continuities are a secular humanist way of thinking about people, science, and technology. They don't take into account a sacred view of work and of people. And the process of mechanization that started during the Industrial Revolution, which served to dehumanize, what I think of as de-dignify, many types of work, it created jobs that were tedious, repetitious, dangerous, on assembly lines, and then many of those jobs ended up being displaced by robots. Not only did they lack dignity, but they contributed to the destruction of the environment, the rise of consumerism and greater greed, and in many cases to the destruction of family life and local cultures. So as we see companies racing to adopt new technologies, especially machine learning and artificial intelligence, we are in danger of being like the lemmings, leaping over that cliff of the fourth continuity. And the current debate in the computer world, in fact, it's one that I'm engaged in writing articles and so forth, should we try to build ethical reasoning into the new machines, or should we focus on making sure that the engineers who build the machines are very, very ethical, so that the machines are not capable of making unethical decisions in the first place? So I'm going to stop there, because that's kind of a framework that I wanted to give you about how we can think about technology and robots and work and how it's going to impact our personhood in the future.
Wow. I wanted to thank our,